there's a high demand. Barter003 here today, and today I kind of want to talk to you guys about bartering in currency in a post-SHTF scenario. Now, this is kind of a thought process that I've been kind of really looking at myself and kind of trying to find a way to properly approach it, because depending on the SHTF scenario, as we all know, that throughout different instances all around the world, especially with the Venezuela incident where the currency is pretty much so devalued that it's pretty much worth almost nothing, to where you have to have wheelbarrows full of cash in that currency just to be able to afford the basic necessities like bread. So right now I kind of want to just kind of talk on to my thought process on it and some of the kind of different things that I feel are going to be worth of value towards a pseudo currency. So first off, as you all know, the actual US dollar for the situation, or whatever country you're from, depending on the SHTF scenario, you could see that with inflation, whether it be a recession, or you could just see the actual US economy and the government collapse to where the actual money is no longer valued because it's no longer backed by anything, even though the US dollar isn't backed by much already. So right now, some of the other options that I hear a lot of people talking about are minerals. Kind of, for example, as I got right here, is going to be silver and gold. Personally, I don't see, and I've actually talked to a couple of local shop owners and asked them what their view on it would be. If they would accept gold or silver in terms of trade for items if something was to happen. And right now what their response was is that they have a lot of them don't even know the current value of gold or silver. So they wouldn't be able to properly estimate the overall cost. Another thing is they don't have easy ways of telling and identifying the difference between gold and actual false gold and things along those type of basic lines. So what's going to happen is that whenever they try to actually validate that currency, whether it be through gold, silver, anything like that, unless they are keeping up with the markets and know exactly how to identify gold and silver, they're not going to be able to properly estimate the value of it. So they're not going to be able to properly estimate what is good for the items that they have for their goods. So what's going to happen is that you're going to come in there with, for example, silver coins, gold coins, and say, okay, I want 50-pound bag of flour, here's $100 worth of silver. And they're going to be like, well, I don't know how much that's worth. It looks like a 50-cent piece. So you got a couple dollars there. So that's probably as far as it's going to go, especially if you're using coins. Or like, for example, some of the actual silver quarters, for example, especially if you have a lot of these small gold ingot or gold bars, they still aren't going to know the value. So that's pretty much the estimation that I've gotten from a lot of locals as per the gold and rough mineral market goes. I'm not saying that it won't work for you, but I think that it's kind of good just to have for financial backing to stock up on gold and silver. But for your primary means of currency, it's probably not going to hold up very well in the long run. Depending on how things go, if the economy restabilizes and starts coming back, you can use that gold and silver to reestablish your wealth or to keep your establishment wealth there. But as far as for trying to buy local goods out and around, it's going to be very hard using gold and silver. At least with my experience. If you guys have had other experience with that, please be sure to put that down in the comments below, because like I said, this is just something that I've been researching and trying to deal with my local environment. Another thing that I kind of see, and you actually kind of see this already, is ammunition. I know that quite a while back, especially back during the fears of the assault weapons ban, you saw the price of ammunition skyrocket, especially the price of .22 ammunition. So what I could definitely see is that there become a bartering system coming available to where, especially in a lot of rural areas, to where you see people start using ammunition as a way of trade, because you can trade ammunition for other types of products, whether it be materials, whether it be tools, the basic necessities, things along those type of lines that are still in stock in the local stores, and they can turn that around and sell that in their store to make a profit for themselves and to keep their store going. Kind of something similar to what they would do back in the early days of the Americas and out west, where you would have people bring and trade in things, where they would come in and they would bring in wheat, they'd bring in flour, they'd bring in sugar, salt, and things like that, and trade that for other goods. Another thing that you might see is alcohol. You do definitely see that there is a high demand, even in times of great stress and great strife, for alcohol and other types of things like that. So you can definitely see alcohol being a very, very good item to barter with. Another thing that I could definitely see is your spices and your things along those type of lines, like I mentioned already multiple times, with your flour, your salt, your wheat, just because those can be very needed and essentials for other families that are living in your town, which can actually kind of create a general local economy on just basic trade and barter. One final thing that I could probably say is probably going to be long-term food, like this Wise Food Company pack right here. And why do I say long-term food, not just canned food and other types of food in general? Because depending on the situation and on your location, those type of foods might not be fully stable. For example, up here in Wisconsin, canned food can freeze very easily, especially if you have no heating or insulation in the shelter that you're in. So say, for example, you pack your bug-out bag or your rucksack or your vehicle full of canned food, and you run out of gas or you run out of fuel for your vehicle, and all of a sudden now all of your food freezes. Now you have to thaw out your food, and it might not even be good after that. So that's why I think long-term food can actually be a very good staple for having for barter, even if it's only putting out a small amount, because there might be goods that you might need. For example, just throwing it out there, maybe baby formula. Just speaking from example, having a newborn, two of them actually in the past 3 years. It's just something that I've had to kind of change my approach to things, especially when you have to put in kids into the equation. So another thing that might be something big would be books, especially books that contain a lot of necessary knowledge, whether it be construction books, whether it be maintenance books for vehicles, for housing, electrical books, things like that that you can actually work on and building up a trade, which is going to come into my final thought process on it, is trade jobs. And you kind of get it into the kind of name there, which is trade, where, for example, construction workers, electrician, welders, mechanics, things along those type of basic lines. You want to have at least some type of knowledge in a trade job that you can have and offer up for actual goods. For example, myself, I know a little bit of construction, and I'm also primarily a part-time gunsmith. So I can generally fix a lot of the easy problems that a lot of people have for their rifles. Even if it is semi-serious, that doesn't need major parts replacement, I can kind of fabricate springs, screws, and other type of tools and parts along those type of lines to make sure the rifle stays working and operational. Having to have done that myself, to kind of have to hand make a couple of punches to kind of make sure that I can tap out some of these parts, and definitely a lot of springs. But for the most part, a lot of it's general maintenance. But that's kind of what I mean by just having a general knowledge in the actual job process, and in having those capabilities to offer up to other individuals if they need it for items that they have. So I'm kind of, like I said, it's just a general thought process video and a very good concept that I've been kind of just looking at. Right now I've been really kind of trying to broaden my own financial situation, like I mentioned, with silver and gold. Then there's just general cash on hand. But I want to hear what you guys think and what you guys kind of look at for bartering, and kind of what you guys have an approach to for bartering for other goods and other services. Like I said, a lot of this is going to be situational and depending on the actual different type of scenario that you're in, because not every scenario you want to be using bullets as a currency. But like I said, just kind of a general thought process. I want to hear what you guys have to say. So remember, those that prepare for today survive tomorrow. And you guys have a great day. Preppers 003 out.